I've seen a lot of these videos in other music and production channels, and I even watched a couple, but I would be lying if I were to tell you that I paid attention to their warnings. Well, I should have paid attention because I struggle getting better. I made some mistakes along the way and it even cost me some money. Being a producer can be a bit pricey, so knowing how to spend your money is also very important. So pay attention, I might be saving you some headache. So here are the mistakes that I've made while growing and learning as a producer. The first mistake was buying the MPK Mini twice instead of buying a 49-key MIDI piano once. The MPK Mini is awesome, and at its price point of $99, it is almost unbeatable. But I actually don't recommend you buy it. It is rare for you to use this to its full potential, and if you are using it to its full potential, you should probably be looking to get better gear. What I recommend instead, and it is what I wish I had done, honestly one of my biggest regrets is not spending a little bit more money to buy a bigger MIDI piano that I can actually play chord progressions on. So my MPK Mini broke after a couple of years, and I tried to fix it, but I couldn't do it, so I ended up buying another one. So right there is $200 invested into MPK Minis, and the Arturia 49 Key Lab is actually just $200, so I could have just bought that instead. And the Arturia Key Lab comes with Analog Lab, which has a great bank for synths and piano, and it also comes with Ableton Lite, which is a great way for you to get introduced to Ableton and try out a new DAW. If I had invested on that from the get-go, I would have had 6 years of experience playing piano instead of the 2.5 years of experience that I have now. Can you imagine that, like having 6 years of experience playing piano? I would be so good right now. But the saddest part is that all the theory that I learned and I shared on the music theory video, I learned without playing piano, and that truly stifled my growth. With music stuff, it's so important to actually practice hands-on the theory you learn. Even if you know that you don't have to play any instrument really well to be a great music producer, being hands-on, actually playing notes and chords, different progressions, will help you internalize all the theory you learned. And let's be honest, being able to play an instrument is just awesome. Now the second topic is interfaces. Yes, you do not need fancy equipment to make great music. It is all about how familiar you are with your own gear. If you reference a song and listen to it on so-and-so like decent headphones, and you mix your own track on those same headphones and you can make it sound similar, there's a great chance that when you translate it and try to play it on great speakers, that the mix will sound at least decent. It will be playable, it's not gonna be bad. So you gotta just know your own gear. However, I must say that I find personally that interfaces are a necessity. They just make producing feel right. Without an interface, your DAW is actually using your computer/laptop built-in sound card, which 9 times out of 10 is actually not that great. But why does that matter? 2 things: latency and quality. Let's talk about quality first. I had these classic M50 headphones for a couple of years before I bought an interface. These headphones were actually an improvement over the good sounding but not professional quality JBLs I had. However, the true power of the M50s was unlocked once I got an interface. The difference in quality was magical. If you're debating on buying a good pair of headphones or a good interface, I suggest you buy the interface and keep decent headphones. I just find that interfaces are higher on the priority list. And the second thing is latency. For years, I've recorded myself playing instruments and recorded a bunch of different artists using bad latency. The sound card of your computer does not allow your DAW to record without latency. Even if FL says that it's recording at 300 millisecond latency, there's still a lot of latency. Enough that playing instruments feels weird, and artists can record their vocals while listening to themselves because the delay will throw them off. Now you can see that on my interface, a 500 millisecond latency, so more latency technically than I had on my FL built-in latency or using the sound card. The 500 millisecond on the interface has no latency, which is crazy because it is more than the 300 of the built-in sound card, but using the interface power, it actually just records without latency. Again, this is incredibly important for recording vocals. For example, if you have a new artist trying to find his voice or just simply trying a new effect on his voice. It is much easier for him to find the sound that he's looking for if he can actually hear what the effects are doing to his voice in real time. That allows him to be more experimental with what he's doing because he can hear in real time what the effects are doing. That is so awesome that even I can record myself making some funny noises and some funny voices on my microphone, and with some effects, some auto-tune, reverb, delay, I can very easily make myself sound like Future or even Cardi. Yeah, I know I've talked about spending money on your interface, but the third thing that I wanted to talk about, the third mistake that I've made, is spending money when I shouldn't have. I got super frustrated watching tutorials because they would introduce a plugin or a sound bank that was quite expensive halfway through the tutorial. I always felt like I needed those tools to finish learning about the tutorial, but oh, was I wrong. There's a lot of free stuff of incredible quality out there. I'll put a link in the description of a website that has a lot of free stuff, and it even says, if I'm not mistaken, comparing, oh, if you want Serum, try this plugin instead, which is free. So it helps you out if you're like looking for a reverb, and then you just give you a free option of a similar reverb. Even though you might say, no, I need that specific plugin because it has a specific preset to give me a specific sound that I'm looking for. Well, most of the time, you can just look at the settings on the preset that they have on the tutorial and copy it and replicate the settings on your own plugin, the free version, and then it will sound similar. This way you can recreate the sound. You may think that this makes watching the tutorial a bit more complicated, but the struggle is worth it. In the process of copying the settings one for one into your plugin, you learn what the knobs do and you get familiar with the terminology that becomes quite important as you learn more and more about music. I think the perfect example is synthesizers. A lot of people use Serum, but you can imitate any Serum preset in any free synthesizer out there. And the final thing I want to talk about is studying your influences and the influences of your influences. For that, you honestly need to listen to a lot of music. But like Tyler the Creator does, he listens to new music every morning. It is good to get in the habit of just consuming more music, not just recent music, old music, all types of music. Studying your influences, you will learn how to pull inspiration from those you admire. And studying their influences, you will truly unlock your understanding of music genres. Because in music, everyone is inspired by everyone. I wouldn't have found so many great soul tracks if I wasn't studying Jay Dilla, and studying those records made me realize just how much I didn't know about music. A perfect example of how studying your influences is better than just trying to create from scratch is my studies with sampling. I knew these producers that I admired do not quantize their drums, but I did try to quantize my sample melody. I just wanted to have a clean loop, you know, that perfectly loops every 4 bars. But once I started studying these producers, I noticed that it was incredibly rare for the loops to fit a perfect 4-bar metric. It is always a bit off, and I found that to recreate that without making my drums too messy, I could use the snare of the sample as an anchor. They, most of the time, layer their own snare on top of the snare of the sample, and then build the rest of their groove around that. The swing comes from the fact that the sample is probably an old track that has a real drummer, and people playing drums are never perfectly on tempo. So when you layer on top of that groove, you have the starting point of your swing. And that is it. I hope it helped. Please listen to me so you don't make the same mistakes I've made, and also listen to me when I tell you to subscribe.